inputs and insights with us. On that note, we leave it there and shift our focus to some other major news that we've been tracking very closely. A powerful bipartisan committee in the U.S. Congress said that it has begun an investigation into the involvement of Elon Musk's Starlink satellite business in providing internet access to Myanmar scam centers, blamed for swindling billions of Americans and victims across the world. The inquiry, which began in July, comes as investigation revealed that large number of Starlink dishes began appearing on scam center roofs in Myanmar around the time of a crackdown in February, with the company coming from nowhere to being the war-torn country's biggest internet provider in 3 months. SpaceX, Starlink's owner, has not responded. Irina continues to be with us on the broadcast, and I'd like to understand from you, yes, there is an investigation that's underway as we speak, but if this were to be true, that seems like a lot of trouble.
I actually would not be particularly surprised if it turned out to be true. There are two possible scenarios how this came about. One is that there are third parties operating on Elon Musk's behalf. In other words, third parties that he was selling Starlink to that have essentially diverted these satellites to the care of Myanmar junta. Of course, that if that is happening, it is due to negligence and failure to do due diligence on Elon Musk's behalf, but it's not as serious as if he was selling access directly. That is also a possibility, however. We have seen other accusations of Russia being able to gain access to Starlink despite Elon Musk's federal contracts that would, in theory, prohibit him from doing business with Russia and providing them with access to these communications. However, if that proved to be accurate, and so far there haven't been very significant denials that it wasn't, that would certainly put Musk's MO in line with this Myanmar development, because it would underscore that he is valuing business above all other considerations, including potentially sanctions violations, and he will do whatever brings in more money. The question is, why would he not be more careful in trying to not get in trouble, legally speaking? It is perhaps that he may have overestimated his level of protection due to the many federal contracts he has with this administration,
Right.
and due to his popularity as well.
Absolutely. I request you to stay on with us as we address some breaking news coming our way and some breaking news coming in from Africa. Madagascar's National Assembly has voted overwhelmingly to impeach President André Rajoelina with 130 votes in favor and 1 blank ballot. This step is for the High Constitutional Court to validate the impeachment. Meanwhile, the elite military unit has taken control of the area around the court in the capital. In fact, joining us to take this conversation forward is Ms. Irina. Ma'am, I'd like to understand from you. Of course, we're seeing a big political shift there taking place in Madagascar. What exactly do you make of the situation?
Well, it's actually one of several recent developments involving youth activists protesting corruption, economic mismanagement, and assorted economic grievances in several completely different countries around the world, and successfully ousting the incumbent governments in some cases, including what we have seen also in Nepal. Now, of course, there are other factors in play aside from youth dissatisfaction with the economy and with political grievances in some cases, as well anti-democratic and measures by preceding governments. But all of this is also amplified by social media, by
Right.
foreign interests, and also by more serious rival political factions in those countries that are using the
Absolutely.
youth movements to piggyback and to achieve their own results.
Absolutely. With that, I'd like to thank you for joining us on NewsX World, sharing our perspectives with us. Moving on to some other news that we're tracking. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio called for the immediate release of over 700 political prisoners in Cuba as he welcomed dissident Jose Daniel Ferrer to the United States. Ferrer, a leading Cuban opposition figure, was freed from prison and arrived in Miami, where he vowed to continue fighting for democracy from exile. He described years of imprisonment marked by claims of torture, humiliation, and harsh conditions, including threats to his family. Listen in to what the Cuban opposition leader said after he arrived in the U.S.
Sí, la Unión Patriótica de Cuba continuó, pero continúa sola. La Unión Patriótica de Cuba está trabajando con todo el exilio, con la Fundación, con Rosa María, con el exilio, con todos los proyectos. Un mensaje breve, que los vamos a apoyar. Que no le cuarto récord, pero que hay que ocuparlo por el bienestar de Cuba, no por capricho ciudadano de Rosa, de Rico, de uno lo que. Si en Venezuela hay una dictadura como la de Maduro, es porque existía una dictadura como la de Cuba y del Castro y Raúl Castro y los que están ahora en el poder, pero han tenido el apoyo de China, han tenido el apoyo de Rusia, han tenido el apoyo de Irán, de Corea del Norte y de todos esos regímenes enemigos de la dictadura. Por lo tanto, es imposible que nosotros solos podamos democratizar.
Rubio praised Ferrer's courage and urged the international community to hold the Cuban regime accountable. The Cuban government confirmed Ferrer's departure followed a formal U.S. request. Ferrer, founder of the Patriotic Union of Cuba, has faced repeated arrests since 2003 and was re-imprisoned after protests in 2021. Despite exile, Ferrer promised to maintain his dignity and keep fighting for Cuba's freedom. And that's a wrap on America 360. Keep on watching NewsX World.